You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Captain John Doe podcast. I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm Mindy. Hello.
How's everybody doing?
Wednesday.
It's the favorite day of the week where we get to share some more anonymous stories with our listeners. How exciting. So, quick little catch up on some things we had to do this past week. I had the privilege of ferrying a new to him G2 SR-22 Cirrus from Henderson all the way down to Apopka, which is in the Orlando area where I did a lot of my training.
It's literally the opposite route that we took to get here. We flew from Orlando to Vegas, and then you just did it backwards.
It was much different going eastbound, if you were wondering.
In what way? Better? Easier?
A lot of tailwinds. So we made some real ground. We did have some we had some challenges entering Florida because there was a giant squall line. So we did, all of our briefings and everything, made sure we were smart with our decisions. And it was really, really good, I think, for my own personal self to get some real actual IMC time again, because out in the desert, it is far and few between.
Yeah. So IMC weather, for those who don't know, is instrument conditions, meaning flying through the clouds. So that's not something that we as pilots have to do every day. It happens every once in a while, a lot on the East Coast. Here in Vegas, we don't have a lot of clouds, but out on the East Coast, lots and lots of it.
100%.
Lots more storms and rain. It's interesting how pilots who train out here have such different, structure and like what they know and experience versus what we learned in Florida and vice versa. Because I know a lot of the pilots here, when they're going out to Florida for the first time, they're asking us, how do you get around thunderstorms? Because there's no thunderstorms here. They never trained around that. And 100%. Then same with us when we got here, we're like, how do you plan around mountains
and big old rocks?
And how do you deal with turbulence and on all these other, it's just,
it's wildly different. I always, like Mindy said, I like to make the adjustment of pilots in Florida have a much better understanding of weather, whereas pilots out here in the desert have a much better understanding of density altitude.
Yeah, there's advantages to learning in different places. So if you guys have done a flight across the country, maybe this will strike up a memory that you should submit to our podcast. We have tons of stories we could share from our flight out here. But if you want to see more of it, head to my YouTube channel at Schmindy on YouTube. We videoed every single leg from Orlando to Henderson, and including weather and some decisions we had to make along the way. It was a really fun series. So check that out. And if it sparks a memory for you, head to CaptainJohnDoe.com to submit your story. Your stories are submitted anonymously. It doesn't even ask for your name. And that's the show. And that's what we're about to do with you guys. But before we get to some really great stories for you guys today, we have a great show for you today. I want to remind you to leave a review. That's a free way you guys can help support us. That really helps us get exposure on the podcast. That's how the algorithm works. So if you're on, especially Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you're on, please leave us a review. We've started to read the reviews. So here's a couple of them that were left for us.
And only 5 stars. Brando said, I look forward to the show every week. You know who else looks forward to the show every week?
Me.
And me. Because this is entertaining for us. We said this 1,000 times. We're reading these submissions live. Like, we do a little proofread, put it in our little computer, but that's it, because this is just as exciting as us reading them for you guys.
Behind the scenes, I'll tell you that when you guys submit stories to our website, it gets put automatically into a spreadsheet that me and Kevin both have access to, and it's put in chronological order. And basically, me and Kevin, we start at the top and we pick out stories that resonate with us that we want to read personally. But still, we're skimming. I'm not reading any of these stories word for word, and neither is Kevin. So what comes out of our mouth is quite the surprise for us as well.
It is. And we're getting through them all. Like, there's no story. If you're thinking about, oh, will this be good enough for the pod? We're going to most likely read it. We're reading everything.
Yeah, we We are actually up to date on the timeline. We haven't skipped anything.
All right. Ashler said, I love Wednesdays. Anxiously await every Wednesday to hear these stories. Such a unique way to have aviation discussions that keep things interesting. Half the time I'm laughing and half the time I'm in shock. Great podcast.
Woo! Thank you guys.
Thank you very much
for your reviews. Speaking of reviews, we have something fun going on. We are giving away free merch for people who submit reviews. So if you've already submitted one, or if you want to submit one, send us a message to the Captain John Doe podcast Instagram account. So you can find it via going to our website or just type in Captain John Doe podcast. It'll pop up on Instagram. Send us a DM on Instagram saying that you submitted a review, and then you will be submitted to our free merch drawing. The first drawing is going to be on the Christmas Eve episode, December 24th. Is that Christmas Eve? Did I make that up?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 24th? Yeah.
Okay. I just had a brain fart. I'm like, is it the 25th?
Every year.
Okay. So the first drawing is going to be on Christmas Eve. And once you submit a review and you're added to this list, you are on the list forever. And we plan to pick at least one winner every month through the end of 2026.
I just got a little sneak peek of the shirts, and they're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I am going to withhold from posting them until we give our first one away.
Are you?
Yeah.
It's a secret?
Well, they're nice. I didn't know you were getting like real shirts. I thought they weren't going to be like that. They're incredible. Anyways, that's for later. So we got 3 stories today, Mindy.
Okay, I have kind of a shorter one to start with. Let's get to it. While teaching a student to get his private pilot license in his V-tail Bonanza, I asked him during a routine practice session to simulate an engine out emergency at 2,500 feet AGL, above ground level. We had done the procedure before, so he understood to pull back the throttle, but instead he reached over and mistakenly pulled out the mixture. Of course, the engine shut down. I saw what happened, but I stayed quiet to see what would happen and if he would recognize his mistake. Once I was satisfied that he knew the emergency procedure, I told him to go ahead and climb out. That's when he realized what he had done. At this time, we were at 1,500 feet AGL. He tried twice to restart the engine, but to no avail. We were now at 1,000 feet AGL, so I told him to fly the airplane and I would try to restart the engine. Finally, at 200 feet AGL, the engine fired. He throttled up and we went back to the airport and drank a beer.
Well, I guarantee you this student will never forget how to do the emergency procedure after that flight.
Well, I mean, it's a strange thing to say that you did the emergency simulated engine out incorrectly, because it's about the recovery, not how to get into it.
I know, but my point is like he's never going to let that down.
That wasn't really my takeaway. My takeaway was about the instructor, that he has balls of steel.
Balls of steel.
Because I would never, maybe I'm a little fairy
to let it go that far.
Yeah.
There's no way I would let it go that far. I don't know. There's no way. Today, my student put her hand on the mixture and then took it off. And I just kind of stared at her and she looked at me. She's like, almost got me. I was like, but you did it.
Yep. You got to just verify that red knob.
Almost got me.
I just can't imagine. I do like the instructor style of letting your students figure out their mistakes without telling them right away. I love when an instructor can stay quiet. I just don't know that I could have stayed quiet that long. Secondly, how did the student not realize how freaking quiet it got? I know pulling back the throttle makes it quiet, but an engine stopping and pulling the mixture out makes it a hell of a lot quieter.
When's the last time you were a student, man? It's been a minute. They are so tunnel vision during these procedures.
So stimulated.
There's so much going on in his head. He's just going ABCs. What do I got to do? Airspeed, best place to land, checklist. Not even knowing
you're right
that there's no sound anymore.
This did say that he was working on his private pilot license.
Yeah.
In his own VTAL Bonanza, though.
Excellent.
What a hell of a plane to get your private pilot license in.
Guy.
Yeah, do you agree with that?
There is probably not a lot harder planes, I would think. You know, retractable, high performance, slippery. Yeah, that takes time.
I get a lot of customers that want to get their private pilot in their own airplane, but they don't want to own a trainer plane. So then they're looking at an SR-22T for me, and obviously it's possible. We have people do it all the time, but I don't love it. Like there's pros and cons, right? There's great things about learning to fly in your own plane. It's not fast because that's all they know, right? It's not like they're moving up from an SR-20. That's all they know in airplane world is how fast the turbo is. So the perception is a little bit different, but that's a lot of airplane to handle for a student pilot and a private pilot. I am much more of the stepping stone strategy of learning in a trainer plane and then moving up. Obviously, I'm also a salesperson. That means I get to sell an airplane 2 times. No, 3 times. I get to help them buy an SR-20, and then we're going to sell it, and then I'm going to help them buy a 22T. I love that for me, but I also love that for them because getting right into a VTAL Bonanza, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. I do this pretty routinely with, like Mindy said, her customers, and they get it, but it takes a long time. And these guys are putting in the work. It's not like I want to use the people, for example, that are flying 3-4 times a week, not the ones that are coming out every 2 weeks. And it takes a lot of time. And a VTAL Bonanza adding even more than a Cirrus. You know, I can imagine. Yeah,
retractable gear. I mean, not to mention insurance doesn't love this. I mean, ugh. Yeah, they're getting more difficult just on complex in retractable aircraft in general. But to be a student pilot, especially to solo on a retractable gear airplane as a student pilot, insurance is going to eat you alive.
Well, the red one, the red button, the red knob, whatever you want to call it, makes the airplane get louder or quieter.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
There was a little PS on this, by the way, of this listener submitted story. It says, PS, while watching one of y'all's recent videos, I almost fell out of my chair laughing when a controller told Mindy to calm down.
I don't even know how we just kind of let that one slide way more than we could have.
Give people the backstory.
All right, so
this was on a YouTube video. We just mentioned my YouTube earlier, but this was on a video out of Henderson, where we are now based outside of Las Vegas.
Long story short, the controller was already being a little nitpicky to everybody. Like, you could just feel the fuse was already lit in his head, whatever. We happened to probably be the 4th plane that was just sparking that fuse. We were getting flight following. Mindy got a frequency on flight following, and then we took off.
No. Wow, I asked you for backstory and you got it wrong.
Did I?
I'm going to correct you. I was waiting for my taxi clearance.
Oh.
I keyed up. I asked for taxi clearance to 0 response from the controller. I waited for about a minute and a half, which I don't know if that sounds like long or short to you listeners. It's a really freaking long time, especially when I was editing the video. I'm just watching me sit in the cockpit for a minute and a half with no response from the controller. Not a standby, not a call back in 2 minutes, nothing.
There was also no other chatter on the radio. Yes. I'm remembering now. Yes, I got a little ahead of myself.
A totally dead frequency. So I waited a long time. Then finally I came back and I didn't even say the whole spiel again. I just said, Henderson ground, 3802 Delta. And he goes, 3802 Delta, calm down.
Boom. It was, I couldn't help but like snort laugh. It was so funny because it was just wildly off the wall. For those of you listening, don't get on us. We monitor ground as well. So
tower.
We monitor tower. You're right. So we are listening to both frequencies. We know there's no one talking, and we still were patient. He still said, calm down. And the best part about this whole thing is I became pretty good friends with some of the controllers there.
Oh, the video got sent to them.
Yes, it got sent to them. Not going to name his name, but the chief we're pretty close, and he came to the school and had a chat with me, and he's like, you know, he had that sad look of defeat, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're on YouTube with this.
And in what world does telling a woman to calm down ever make a situation better? Just want to put it out there. If you ever tell a female, calm down, things will not be calmed down.
Just think, I had to fly with her all the way to LA.
They will be revved up. I was coming out of my skin.
I thought that she was going to explode.
I'll say I was very nice back on frequency, despite my insides coming outside.
I see it right now. All right.
Next story.
That's good. Calm down, Mindy.
Calm
down. All right. My turn. This story is from when this person was a full-time CFI. Each winter, the school sent about a dozen instructors in planes TDY to North Carolina to escape the winter. I was flying with one of my favorite students who had just soloed a few days before. We were going out on a short night cross-country to work on PPL, which is private pilot license, instrument requirements, and do some night landings in a double lesson. We left our Class D triangulated by Metroplex, the mythical triad. I kept that in there. A little opposing bases crossover for those of you guys that listen to their show. And home of the Army Airborne Charlie. On our way south, we have the transit and alert area, and I pointed out the beacon from the helicopter on the training route that was obviously on night vision goggles. A few minutes further, our G1000 lights up with traffic targets all around, above and below us, and 20 to 30 helicopters suddenly turn their lights on.
What?
That would freak me out. We had stumbled into formations of blacked out helicopters on a training mission.
No.
After that startle, we continued on towards our destination to do landings. She enters the pattern and comes in on a perfect approach to land. As she pulls the power and begins the round out, we see a bright flash in our landing light, moving left to right, followed by a thud and 20-degree left yaw. We had hit an animal.
What?
You didn't know that was going that way. There was a proud instructor moment here, though. We hadn't yet touched down, and by the time my hand got to the power lever, my student had started going around. In fact, this Captain Jane Doe had started to go around a split second before we hit the animal. I kept the airplane in the pattern for a lap or two to figure out how it was flying and did a low pass over the runway to see if I really needed to put it down and how much usable runway there was. Decided that it probably wasn't best to land on the runway where I couldn't use a third of it and also didn't have any Uber or hotels in town. We flew back 51 miles to our home airport that had 24/7 crash fire rescue from the Air National Guard. We got lucky and there was a Piper landing, and I asked if they could go to the approach end and look while we did a low approach, saying we might have a gear issue. Everything looked fine, so I did the best soft field landing in my life, and luckily there was no issue. When we shut down, the pilots of the Piper came over and asked what happened, to which we replied, "We hit a deer." My student was surprisingly fine, and I debriefed her and made sure she was okay. A couple days later, I got her back on the plane for just a regular flight to make sure there was no lingering issues that were hidden by adrenaline that night, and she did great. Had a grand time with her practicing power off 180s for the hell of it since it was free. No Jeopardy flight. All of my students had the risk of earning a call sign if they did something deserving of one. She's affectionately known as Bambi now.
Oh.
The plane ended up having a new wing manufactured by Diamond, and it was only down for 3 weeks, and obviously it got a deer kill sticker. So I guess you can say this is really a Captain John Buck story.
Well, it could have been a doe. We don't know if it was a doe or a buck.
Well, we don't.
Hilarious, though. There's a lot to unpack here. Hold on. I've got to start at the top. The helicopters.
Yes. You just threw that in there, by the way, and that could have been the story itself.
First of all, this helicopter part freaks me out, especially how it started with knowing that they're on night vision goggles. Obviously, there was a tragic accident that was similar setup to how they were saying, and I just got chills reading that, anyway. And then when they said 20 to 30 helicopters turned their lights on, holy crap, was that not
That would have startled me enough to just like bug out immediately.
But they say that the G1000 lit up with traffic targets. Did they have their transponders off? And when they realized that,
I think that's what they meant.
When they realized another airplane was around, then they turned their transponders on to be like, "Hey, we're here."
That's what it seems like. Yeah, I mean,
why would they turn it off to begin with? It's not a real mission. They were probably obviously training.
I don't know if you guys are in this guard unit, give us some messages on how you operate, because I did read from obviously the accident you're talking about that's a common theme, that they turn off their transponders and ADSB when they're actually practicing a mission.
Why? When they're practicing, simulate.
Yeah, maybe go into like a MOA.
Just like we're supposed to simulate engine outs and not do real engine outs, why are we not simulating transponder off and just have it in the checklist for real missions? That way people like me and you flying around in our little airplane don't smash into 30 helicopters
at night.
Yeah, especially blacked out, like no lights on, no nothing, no transponders. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Hello.
Okay, so how about the buck or the doe? Which one was it?
I have opinions on this.
Go for it.
My opinion is this is not the decision I would have made.
Go ahead.
If I knew I hit an animal, you better be damned I'm not going back in the air. I'm going to put it on the ground and decide if there's anything wrong with the plane. He describes, obviously it worked out, so like I'm not shitting on you. But for me, I would be scared there was something wrong with the plane. Obviously there was. They had to replace the wing.
The whole wing.
But the decision to go around, I don't love. I know that you're supposed to go around if something happens, but at the point of hitting an animal, I'm probably going to want to put it on the ground. 2, they didn't want to land at that airport in case something was wrong with the plane, that they would be stuck there. But wouldn't you want to land if there was something wrong with the plane? Right? Like I'm like missing the piece here, because he's like, well, I don't want to land there and get stuck if something's really wrong with the plane. I'm like, well, God damn it. Of course you want to land if something's wrong with the plane. I don't care if I'm stuck somewhere.
So
I'll walk my ass home.
I'm gonna play twofold here. I agree with you 100%, but let's play devil's advocate.
Okay.
We were not there. We don't know what that thump was. It could have been a little bit less egregious than what we're picturing. I'm picturing a deer hitting the wing, pretty catastrophic. So in my mind, in your mind, we're landing right there.
Kevin, the plane had a new wing. I'm reading the story. The plane ended up having a new wing manufactured by Diamond, and it was only down for about 3 weeks.
Listen, I'm playing devil's advocate. We weren't there. I don't know how that thud felt. I'm agreeing with you.
Let me tell you something, Kevin. You're so blessed to have never hit an animal. I have hit a bird.
I know.
I've hit a large bird, which is much smaller than a deer, and the thud is deafening. When you hit something with your airplane, the thud be thudding.
The thud be thudding.
It's scary. And guess what I did?
What'd you do?
I immediately landed.
Yeah.
Not in a field. I landed at an airport. Like, let's not be aggressive. But nearest direct enter, land, what's wrong with the airplane? I didn't, and I landed somewhere that, I'll be honest, probably didn't have service. But my ass is getting on the ground because I care a lot more about my life and getting safely on the ground than being stuck in some no-name city for 24 hours. I really don't give a shit. I will sleep in the airplane. I don't care.
I'm going to toot your horn for one quick second.
Toot, toot.
No, I don't like doing that all the time. But we were doing a little mojo flight to Charleston a couple years ago, and we were coming into land. You remember this?
Yeah, we almost had a Captain John Buck story.
We did. We were coming into land. It was super gross out, too. Captain Jane Doe, a.k.a. Mindy, was flying.
You weren't even a pilot yet,
I don't
were you?
remember if I... Probably not. I don't know. Anyways, we're coming into land, and all of a sudden, there's 3 or 4 deer that decide to run right in front of the airplane as Mindy pulls power to idle and flares. Like, the worst possible time. And it took my brain a couple seconds, and we were filming, I think. That day.
Oh, it's on video.
And I remember I said there's a dog or something.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think I even said it to you. Like, I was saying it to myself because it was so hard to like put together. And before I even like closed my lips, the power was all the way in and you were going around. It was so impressive.
Prior to a thud.
Prior to the thud. But
there was no thud.
Thud be thumping.
There'd be no thud.
But like this was like the wheels may have even like blown the ground. That's how close. And the deer weren't on the runway until they were on the
Right. And they ran right across where we'd be flaring. Like if I would have continued that landing, we would have hit deer.
It was an impressive little moment there.
Back to the bird thump. I did hit a bird in my airplane. I feel like people are going to want to know
Did the bird survive?
I don't know. There was a lot of blood. It's not funny. This flight was very high pressure because we had bought our airplane, put it in the shop for almost 4 months to get a whole Garmin upgrade, everything, all brand new. And then my flight, I did some test flights in Georgia, and then I was flying it from Georgia to our new place in Florida, which was a 2.5 hour flight nonstop. I was by myself in this brand new panel that I have never like fully worked by myself. It's not on a cross country. I only did test flights with it. And then was flying it back by myself. And I know Garmin really well, but I didn't really know like my panel well yet, but it was a VFR day. So I'm like, I'm just going to fly it home and like play with it as I go. And I was maybe halfway home on this, what was supposed to be a nonstop flight. And I see this huge like vulture bird at the last second and a big thump. And I was so scared. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope it didn't hit the prop or something, or, because that can really mess up, obviously, the prop or your engine or whatever. And just muscle memory of knowing Garmin. Shout out to Garmin and how all of their equipment is the same but different. I didn't know how to work my panel, but in about 3 seconds, like my muscle memory knew how to go nearest direct enter, and it was slightly different than the other platforms I fly. And came into land, and I got out, and on the gear, I think it was the right side main landing gear, covered in blood, but it hit the front of like the gear fairing, and nothing was dented or anything. There was just a bunch of feathers and blood, but it was not on the cowling at all. It was not on the prop. And I got so lucky, but my heart dropped. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like one of the best flights ever, supposed to be going home with like this newly renovated airplane to the brand new hangar that we just got in Orlando. So exciting. And I just felt like I just damaged the airplane, but I didn't. It was fine. It was just a scary moment.
It was scary for me too, because my phone's ringing and I'm like, Mindy's flying right now. Why is she calling?
Because you're waiting at the new hangar for me to arrive.
Yeah, I'm like kind of confused. And we have this relationship where this is our career. And I know when she's calling me early, it's never good. And I'm immediately thinking we have all this new stuff, so something's wrong.
Yeah.
And she lands. She goes, I'm okay. The airplane's okay. But I nailed a bird and I had to divert and land. Yeah. I was like...
I remember I showed up in Orlando. You got to see it. I didn't have anything to clean it with, so you saw it in its glory.
Oh, yeah.
It was disgusting.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So
yes, and then we had that deer time, and then I was just delivering an airplane to a customer. I had sold this 2022 Cessna Skylane, and I was delivering it from Kentucky to Georgia, back to Georgia again, to the customer, and landing at his home airport. As I'm coming in, maybe, I don't know, like 100 feet above the runway, and a fox runs out and runs right in front of the airplane. But it was already off of the runway before I came close enough, so I was still able to land. But as I'm getting off of the runway, I'm like, whoa, like, thank God I was ready for a go-around, because I even briefed a go-around on final approach, talking about everything full forward, ready for a go-around. I just, like, say it out loud. That way I almost tell my muscles, like, be ready to do this. That way I don't come in complacent. And almost had to do another one. There's a lot of
animals.
A lot of animals out on the East Coast around the Carolinas and Georgia and stuff.
Well, great story. We loved it.
This episode is brought to you in part by Airplane Academy private pilot flashcards by our friend and fellow pilot and content creator, Charlie. He has a YouTube channel. I filmed with him before, and he has these amazing private pilot flashcards that are color-coded, over 350 of these, and they're based on the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, the PHAK for all you student pilots, the FARs, the AIM. It's reviewed and approved by CFIs, including myself and Kevin. He has sold over 5,000 of them with a nearly perfect 5-star review. They're such a nice set, great for the holiday season for any of the pilots in your life or for yourself. Head to airplaneacademy.com/John Doe.
All right, man, your turn for the last story of the day. What do you got for us?
I've got a good one. Okay. One of the wilder incidents I recall occurred when I was just starting my job at U.S. Airways. I was assigned the gate at 5:30 a.m., and I was working with a longtime passenger service supervisor named JB. He always carried an air of arrogance, despite being kind. He believed he was the smartest person in the room, and he wanted everyone to know it.
Don't we all?
Sounds like he could have been a pilot. Since we didn't have catering or cleaners, we would walk down the jetway to the airplane, a Fokker F-100, before things got busy. We would check to make sure everything was somewhat tidy, and I'd usually raid the snack cart for a free soda and the occasional sandwich box. I'd use a flashlight since everything was dark. JB jumps on board and says, "I'm going to power everything up and start making some coffee." I was standing in the cockpit, and he was sitting in the left seat. I was just looking at all the buttons in awe. I asked, "Do you want me to go grab a power cart?" He replied, "No, the crew will be here soon. I fired these things up hundreds of times."
Okay, let's see what happens next.
He reached for the main battery and click, beeps and boops, light flashing. He paused to see an orange sticker on the APU switch that said MEL.
Oh my gosh.
I asked, "What does that mean?" He said, "These things are smart. They'll tell you if something's not right." He proceeded to press buttons, and you could hear a faint whirring sound increase. Suddenly, a loud, obnoxious bell went off, and the pull handle that said APU Fire lights up. I remember saying, "Oh, shit," and running out the jetway door.
Peace, I'm out.
One of the maintenance guys down in the baggage area ran out yelling, "WTF." Probably didn't say that, but that's what they typed. WTF. Meanwhile, there was a small orangish fireball coming out of the back of the airplane. JB ran out onto the ramp too, yelling, "The extinguisher isn't working." Just then, one of the mechanics dragged out a big wheeled fire extinguisher. He proceeded to shoot the extinguisher into what I'd guess to be the APU inlet. The airplane emitted a loud grinding sound. The sound gradually diminished, leaving behind a thick cloud of smoke and a pungent diesel exhaust smell. Alarms were going off around the ramp. A couple of minutes later, the airport fire truck arrives and thoroughly doused the area to ensure complete dismissal of the fire. Once the situation had settled, statements were made, and at 8 a.m., JB and the station manager were engaged in a conference call with regional managers and I think even the CEO. I couldn't help but wonder what it would have been like to be a fly on that wall. I recall visiting the operations room later that morning, located downstairs. It was a break room-like area where all the maintenance and baggage handlers hung out. We had a rather endearing baggage handler known affectionately as Jimbo, not his real name. Now, note all this happened around the same time as the MasterCard priceless commercials. Jimbo remarked something along the lines of, "1 cup of shitty airline coffee, $150. 1 Fokker F-100 airliner, $30 million. Watching JB shoot a flaming APU out the ass end of an F-100, priceless."
Oh.
Some things money can buy. For everything else, there's a MasterCard. How he said it just had us all dying laughing. In the end, JB kept his job that day, barely, but was told to never touch anything inside a cockpit ever again. That year at the Christmas party, months later, he was still getting razzed about it. And me, being one to never let a good thing die, I bought him a t-shirt. all black with a big orange square that simply said in op, MEL. And now you know the rest of the story.
Thank you, JB, for being how everybody wants to be and just press buttons, because now this story gets to be shared.
That's hilarious. And that's how I imagine all baggage worker, ramp guy, whatever. Like those guys have this personality.
What's the worst that'll happen? I've done this 100 times.
I love
beep, bop, beep, bop, boop, fire.
That's funny. Well, let's break it down a little bit for any non-pilots or maybe someone who's not on the bigger jets yet. The APU auxiliary power unit is normally, it's a tiny engine that helps power up the avionics and parts of the electronics of the plane before you actually get the engines running. So when you turn on this kind of mini engine, you get power to the airplane.
The way I think people can understand it is like when you board your airplane and the AC is on, and then when the AC shuts off, the APU shuts off, and because they're about to start the engines, and then it starts powering up from the engines.
So the APU, it's like a little generator, you could say. So it provides partial power to the airplane. So that's what he was trying to turn on. And then MEL.
Minimum equipment list.
Good job, Mr. Instructor. So if something is marked MEL, it's probably broken. If it's on or off the MEL, I don't know what this particular note said. Obviously, it was in op. So when he tried to start it anyway, now we know why it was in op, because it was going to make flames and then the fire bottle didn't work. So I don't know if it's jet wide, but all the jets I fly have fire extinguisher bottles for the engines and the APU. Some of them are even automatic, but when there is a fire that appears in any of these engines, the pilot has access to a fire bottle, which would extinguish it. And clearly that wasn't working.
Hence the big MEL sticker.
Yeah. Hilarious though, because again, I can see mechanics, bag handler guys, whatever, doing that. And just funny that what did this say when this was?
It's a Fokker 100, so this is definitely
US Airways.
A little bit ago. We don't want to age anybody, but probably in the 80s or something.
Yeah, US Airways Fokker 100. That's going to age it enough to show that this guy got away with starting APUs on other airplanes, quote, hundreds of times.
Great point.
Yeah, that ages the story itself, because if someone did that now, oh my gosh, there's so many rules and regulations. But it's funny that he was doing that just to make a shitty cup of coffee.
Just freaking coffee. That's the whole point of it. He just wanted some airplane coffee, man.
That's a bougie man. That's hilarious.
Great story. I really like that one a lot.
Me too.
Might have been one of my more favorite stories that we've shared.
Me too. So keep the stories coming. These are amazing. Head to captainjohndoe.com and submit the story. That way we can read it on here, laugh about it with all you guys, and maybe learn a thing or two in the process. And with that, we will see you guys next Wednesday.
See you guys. Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit captainjohndoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.